At a famous university, there was a philosophy lecturer who was known as an atheist and often held open discussions in his class. These discussions often turned into heated debates, especially when there were students who tried to defend their faith. With his in-depth knowledge and sharp debating style, this lecturer almost always managed to outdo his opponents. However, the atmosphere changed when a Muslim student named Asia attended one of his classes. Asia was known among her friends as a calm, intelligent person who had a good understanding of Islam. One day, the lecturer discussed the existence of God. In a challenging tone, he said, "If God exists, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why does He allow evil to happen? Doesn't that show that God doesn't care or maybe doesn't exist at all?" Most of the students fell silent. They were used to arguments like this from their lecturer. However, Asia raised her hand calmly and said, "Sir, I would like to respond to your question." The lecturer smiled, as if anticipating a new challenge. "Go ahead, Asia," he said. Asia began, "First of all, we need to understand that evil and suffering are part of human life that have wisdom behind them. Islam teaches that this world is a place of trial, not heaven. If we understand that life is a trial, then suffering and evil are a means to test human patience, faith, and courage." The lecturer tried to interrupt, but Asia continued, "And about the existence of God, sir. You often demand proof of God's existence. However, have we ever questioned the existence of abstract concepts such as love, morality, or justice? We cannot see or touch them, but we feel their existence through their effects. God is like that. His presence is seen through signs in the universe, order, and harmony that could not exist without the Creator." The room fell silent. The lecturer seemed to think for a moment before saying, "But, isn't that just a subjective interpretation? Empirical evidence is more important." Asia smiled and replied, "Sir, empirical evidence is important for science, but religion is not only about the empirical. Religion is about the meaning, purpose, and value of life. In fact, science and religion complement each other. For example, science can explain how rain occurs, but religion explains why rain is a blessing. If you only look for empirical evidence for everything, you will miss the greater meaning." The lecturer fell silent. For the first time, he had no convincing counterargument. The atmosphere of the class felt different, as if a new understanding had seeped into the hearts of every student. After class, several students approached Asia, praising her courage and asking for further explanation. The lecturer, although not directly admitting defeat, seemed to respect his students' beliefs more. In the following days, the discussions in the philosophy class felt different. The lecturer, who usually dominated the conversation with his dominant argumentative style, began to give more space for the students to speak, as if he were evaluating his own approach. Asia became the center of attention, not only because of her courage, but also because of the way she delivered arguments that were full of logic and spiritual depth. In the next meeting, the lecturer discussed the topic of the meaning of life. This time, she seemed more careful in expressing her views. The meaning of life, according to many philosophers, is just an illusion. We create meaning because we are afraid of emptiness. So, does that meaning really exist, or is it just our imagination? She asked in a flat tone. Asia raised her hand again. "Sir, if the meaning of life is just an illusion, why do humans continue to search for and create it? In fact, your actions in discussing here show that you are looking for meaning, whether it is from rational thinking or even from emptiness itself." In Islam, the meaning of life is not created by humans, but is given by the Creator. God created us with a clear purpose, to know Him, worship Him, and bring benefits to His fellow creatures. The lecturer smiled slightly. Then, how do you prove that it is not just a doctrine? How are you sure that it is true? Aisha calmly replied, certainty comes from the harmony between the heart, the mind, and revelation. When one studies the Quran and sees how its messages align with reality and science, we find rational and spiritual evidence that reinforce each other. For example, the Quran talks about the origins of life, the cycles of nature, even scientific phenomena that were only understood by humans centuries later. These are not mere coincidences, but signs from God. This time, several students responded, stating that they too were beginning to be interested in studying the relationship between religion and science. The discussion that had previously been dominated by skepticism now shifted to a more open dialogue. After class, the lecturer approached Aisha. In a more humble tone, he said, "Aisha, I admit, you have an extraordinary way of thinking. I don't always agree, but you make me think more deeply about many things. Thank you for having the courage to voice your opinion." Aisha smiled and replied, "Thank you, sir. I believe that discussions like this are an opportunity to learn from each other. I also learned a lot from the questions you asked." From that moment on, the relationship between the lecturer and his students changed. The lecturer began to invite students to discuss more openly, without belittling anyone's beliefs. He also often referred to views from various religions and philosophies, as if he were trying to find a broader understanding. For Aisha, that moment was not about winning or losing the debate, but about conveying the truth in a wise way. Her attitude inspired her friends to be more confident in defending their beliefs, while also opening their hearts to dialogue with people who have different views. Behind every debate, there is the hope for mutual understanding, and that is where the true power of knowledge and faith lies.